privilege to have here the New York and New Jersey Baykeeper. And it's a shame, we're hoping to fix up these piers out here because most all of the entities that came today want to come by boat because they have waterborne and maritime operations. So without any further ado, please put your hands together. Andy Wilner and the New Jersey Baykeeper. New York.
There are sound keepers, river keepers, bay keepers, lake keepers. These are people who are full-time protectors of the water body, non-governmental ombuds people. And what we do is we make sure that the water quality is maintained or improved. We also make sure that habitat is protected. And last but not least, we sometimes have to use the courts and our attorneys to bring lawsuits against polluters and people who disobey the other regulatory laws. Estuaries are where fresh and saltwater meet, and they are the most productive parts of the ocean. More biology takes place in estuaries than any other part of the ocean. So not only does it have an enormous amount of animals, fish, and plant species, but it also has 15 million people who all flush their toilets into it. So it's not only a remarkable wilderness area in recovery, it's also heavily impacted by human activity. But it's also remarkably diverse in that there are freshwater wetlands, there are forests, there are sandy beaches, there are mudflats, there's naturally deep water, there's shallow water, there's huge wetlands left, although 90% of the wetlands which existed at the time of European colonization are now gone, filled to make industrial land, docks and wharfs, and more recently to try for places for developers to build. As less and less open land becomes available, people are attempting to build in wetlands inappropriate, non-water dependent uses. There's a proposal to build a mall in Meadowlands in New Jersey for 200 acres of wetlands fill when there are plenty of alternatives in New York City and northern New Jersey to build this mall if it is economically feasible.
So without any further ado, folks, please put your hands together for Owen Foote.
My name is Owen Foote, and right now a lot of our dredgers are over at Valentino Pier taking youth on the water, many of them for the first time out paddling. And the idea of our club is to get as many people on the water as possible, because we feel that as you're introduced to the water, you automatically become advocates for its revival and its environmental restoration. On the Gowanus Canal, it's flat water. So there's almost no wake, unless there's a jet ski going by or something like that. Yes, believe it or not, there is a jet skier who utilizes the Gowanus Canal. Or perhaps one of BQ's speed boats with 30 or 40 tourists. And we usually like to get out to wave to them, to invite them out with us, get a little closer to the water. We speak at some schools. We've had students out from the local Brooklyn Heights schools that test the water quality and use that in their scientific experiments. And we work a lot with trying to get the youth involved because we feel that we need to build a new generation of environmentalists.
I'd like to bring up Captain Pamela Hepburn now, if I would. Big round of applause. And maybe we can ask her to come up here. She brought her tugboat, Pegasus. This is going to be a great team between the Pegasus and the barge, and we're going to take our show on the road, right, Pamela?
Absolutely.
Here we go. Pamela Hepburn. Yeah.
Thank you. So anyway, there's the tugboat, and that's most of my speech. I'd really like to say that there's a whole bunch of us in this harbor who are involved in the preservation of really neat old floating things. And the North River Historic Ship Society is working very hard on the west side of Manhattan to have spaces for these wonderful things. And we hope that you'll all come and visit us, because all of them are open to the public. And it's a marvelous thing, because as the developers take the waterfront away from us, of course, we're just trying to get, you know, a little toehold in there to have some fun with the waterfront and preserve some of this wonderful stuff. So I hope you enjoyed the boat. It's in its beginning stages of a restoration project and a little rough, but it'll get better with time.
So now we'll talk a little bit about Red Hook, and then we'll open it up for ideas. We have a lot to be proud of here in Red Hook, and we have the potential to be a very healthy community. We have housing, jobs, and educational opportunities, and a lot of the folks that are living here have a healthy respect for the environment and people public space needs. Local people working together will rebuild this neighborhood as a model neighborhood for the city, and the Greenway can help show the way.
Commuting by water. It's a matter of course in Venice. It's the only way to go down the Chao Phraya, to travel in Bangkok with any ease down the Chao Phraya River. Copenhagen just started one, and the Municipal Art Society Metropolitan Waterfront Alliance, many of you may have seen, has proposed a similar harbor loop that would connect many of these redevelopment areas for commuters and for tourists. One of the things that we've been very interested in is the possibility of going not only to the downtown business areas with these ferries and bringing in the FedEx and the UPS cargo, but also to go to the new redevelopment areas like Red Hook and Dumbo and Sunset Park.
For a long time, you could get right at the end of Conover Street. You could probably catch a boat to St. George. You could probably catch a boat to the Morris Canal. You could probably just about go anywhere. But look right outside David's door here and you see a rotting bulkhead. You see a street end that the Department of Transportation says is not safe, except they won't help award the permits to fix it and make it safe where people can access. We need access, number one. Ferry transportation, as Roberta mentioned earlier, presents a great opportunity to give us another way to get around. If you're going from Greenpoint to Lower Manhattan, why do you have to take the subway through Midtown to get to downtown? The water is a natural avenue, and we need to make better use of it. Up here you got Lower Manhattan, over here you got Jersey City and Bayonne, and down here Staten Island, and the idea is that you create sort of a local form of transportation. So you could go get a ferry from the 69th Street Pier at Bay Ridge and go over to St. George the way you could 40 years ago before the Verrazano-Narrows Bridge opened. But take a look out there now when you're sitting in traffic and thinking about how you're getting home or how long it's taking, and see how empty the water is. This is about making better use of the waterway as a transportation resource. So 1, clean up the water. 2, restore access. 3, improve waterborne transportation. And 4, use waterfront revitalization really for overall community revitalization.
It's about railroads because railroads practically owned this harbor, or at least served it. Maybe not owned it, but served it. A lot of the little boats that were working for them, such as this one, working in the harbor, were railroad boats or under contract to railroads. This is the harbor, as it was, a little bit busier than it is now. This shot here, this really shows you what the Hudson River looked like in full cry. You had to be kind of courageous even to just go across the river with a ferry boat. If you were a railroad coming to New York, all you had to do was find one patch in the harbor where you could lay out a big waterfront terminal, a lot of acres, and from there you could serve every part of the harbor, every industry practically, and all the piers and so forth, just in that one place. And they all found that much cheaper than trying to lay tracks everywhere. When railroads first came to the harbor, they started using ferry boats. Ferry boats were not invented by the railroads, but they were certainly put to great use by the railroads. Probably the largest system of steam ferry travel in the world, maybe, at least in the U.S., was in New York Harbor. And most of them were rail ferries. Now at first the freight was sent that way too, just loaded onto ferries and moved over. Eventually they used lighters, sail lighters. This is a typical sail lighter. This is one derelict. They carried most of their their cargo on top of the lighter. They had a mast, gaff rig. These little lighters were the workhorses of the harbor, went all over the place, under sail. It might take several days for your cargo to get from Staten Island to Manhattan. The railroad brings the freight in, it's loaded into the lighter, moved around the harbor. Then they also invented in the late 1860s the car float. When these cars were full, a tugboat would take them, haul them up around the battery and up the Hudson River, probably to Weehawken, and then you put into trains for the west. Cars are brought in here on long barges, brought over the car floats, hauled on. We go to the various industries around Bush Terminal and then go back again the same way back to New Jersey. All the railroads in the east wanted to serve New York Harbor since it had a huge traffic base. By far the largest port. Basically 50% of the commerce in the United States went through the Port of New York. And they called it the Water Belt Line. A belt line in normal railroad practice consists of tracks that goes around the city and serves everything. But in this case, with a water belt line. Instead of laying tracks and building huge bridges and paying real estate taxes in Manhattan, they found it much cheaper to put things into small boats like this one, not so small really, and deliver it via the waterfront.
I just want to let you know, outside we have the New York Maritime Workshop. They can show you some tricks about with ropes, as well as talk to you, and they're going to be giving a talk here as well about job readiness and vocational training for youth and boat building.
Well, the Maritime Workshop is vocational training job readiness. We teach young adults from 18 through 21 how to work on boats. Teach them woodworking, fiberglass, engine repair. That's translated to carpentry on land. So any woodwork they learn from us, they're able to translate that to jobs, well-paying jobs. The workshop is located at the Brooklyn Navy Yard at the Captain Boathouse. We have a 1906 skipjacks that we plan to restore this summer. Set up an appointment, be glad to give you a tour.